The third person really came beyond the call of duty. Many months ago, he said, "I'd like to come speak as an alum to the breakfast." And we said, "No problem. When are you coming?" He's coming, flew from New York. Well, he waited Tuesday to vote, which I applaud him for. Yesterday, he was on at the airport for about 5 or 6 hours, got in about 3 this morning because of the new hurricane that came through. So I really appreciate you making it here, Mr. Scott Farrell.
Thank you, Pat, for the kind introduction. As he did allude, it's been quite a journey to make it here. First with one Hurricane Sandy that I'm sure you all heard about. I've been a climate change refugee for the last couple of weeks, and it looks like for a couple more months now. And I almost didn't make it. It was actually more about 12 hours in the airport, and I got in this morning at 4 a.m. Unfortunately, my bag didn't make it, so please excuse my less than professional attire. Thank you all for coming this morning in support of Thomas Edison High School. My name is Scott Farrell. I'm an alumnus from the class of 2005. I was truly honored when Pat asked me to share my story with you here today. After high school, I moved to New York City to attend Fordham University, where I graduated in 2009 with a Bachelor's of Science in Finance. Today, I'm an investment banker at a boutique firm on Wall Street, focusing on alternative investment origination. Although I've achieved much for a 26-year-old with severe dyslexia, my path has never been certain. In fact, I've failed every step of the way. But what I didn't realize until recently is that I've succeeded because of my failures, not in spite of them. And I can confidently say that I wouldn't be where I am today without the experience of being a student at Thomas Edison. Now, I know this is probably not what you expected to hear from a successful former student, but if you let me explain and tell my story, I think you'll understand what I mean. See, we live in a winner-take-all society where we glorify those who win and we forget about those who don't. But when you hear the stories of the most successful and inspiring people, one common element emerges. They all failed, time after time, before they were able to succeed. Winston Churchill failed 6th grade. He lost every political office that he ran for until the age of 62 when he was British Prime Minister. Marilyn Monroe's first contract with Columbia Pictures expired because they told her she wasn't pretty enough, wasn't talented enough to be an actress. A newspaper editor once fired Walt Disney because he, quote, lacked imagination. He had no good ideas. Several of his businesses failed before he released his first movie. The school we're all in support of here today is named after Thomas Edison, the famous inventor of the light bulb. But what we don't usually hear about Edison is that he attempted and failed to create the light bulb over 1,000 times. Now, I'm no Thomas Edison, but sometimes it feels like I failed just as many times. And if it weren't for the unwavering support and commitment from my mother, Teresa, who stayed up with me countless late nights to help to make sure I finished my homework and fought for me in every one of my IEP meetings, I wouldn't have made it to high school. I began my academic career at a small alternative school here in Portland. Curriculum for the early grades focused largely on storytelling, which was well suited for my learning style. And so, I was able to keep up academically for the most part and went undiagnosed. But as I moved up in grades, the curriculum began to focus more on reading and writing. And it wasn't long before I was no longer able to keep up with my schoolwork. I remember my first written report on the Siberian tiger in 3rd grade. What I remember so well about that report aren't facts about tigers, but that I hardly wrote a word of it. Instead, my best friend Perry wrote the paper for me, and I put my name on it, getting credit for work that I did not and could not do. But Perry didn't write my report because he wanted to help me cheat or to be dishonest. He wrote it because no one wants to see their friends struggle. And at the time, I was reading below 1st grade level and simply could not do the work. Harry's report on the Siberian tiger got me through the assignment. but by not allowing me to fail, I was no closer to being able to do the work myself. One time, in 4th grade, our class was doing a spelling bee. All the students stood in the front of the classroom, and if they misspelled their given word, they returned to their seats, and the other students continued to compete. My teacher knew that I struggled with reading and writing, and when it was my turn, she attempted to throw me a softball and gave me the word pole, as in flagpole. P-U-L, I said in a cautiously triumphant tone, which was immediately met with uproarious laughter from my classmates. The snickering continued as I flopped back to my desk, buried my head in my arms in humiliation. By 5th grade, I was reading below 2nd grade level. I was so far behind in all my classes that my mom decided it was time for a change. She enrolled me in the local public elementary school, where I was formally diagnosed with dyslexia. It was in 5th grade when I truly began to be terrified of school. I was put into special ed classes, and I first heard the term learning disabled. Being publicly labeled disabled is a very heavy title to carry around for an 11-year-old kid. When I was in the regular classroom, I lived in constant fear of being called upon to read to the class. The teacher would delegate this responsibility by pulling popsicle sticks with students' names on them from an old coffee can. To randomize the drawing, she would shake the can, and when I heard that can rattle, the lump in my throat would swell to the point where it was hard to swallow. My face would flash bright red, and I'd quietly pray that my name would not be called. When my name was called, I would hear groans and gasps from my classmates in anticipation of that painfully slow reading that was about to ensue. My voice would tremble as I tried to sound out the passage word by word. Eventually, my teacher would take pity on me, finish my assigned section, but my anxiety and embarrassment would remain long after I stopped reading, making it impossible to focus on the lesson. In middle school, things only got worse. Crowded classrooms, more ruthless peers, and new social pressures of adolescence created a hostile education environment. I coped by acting out in class, completely blowing off assignments, and even skipping school altogether sometimes. I no longer even felt like a student, but rather a combatant, battling the teachers and faculty for the respect and laughter of my friends. Soon, I was seen as one of the bad kids. Whenever there was an unresolved incident, I was the first to be called to the principal's office. Things escalated to the point where in 7th grade, I was expelled for making some really poor decisions. After being admitted back to school, I remember sitting in an IEP meeting with my mom and being told that it would be a miracle if I ever graduated high school, and that my mom should lower her expectations about me ever going to college. When 8th grade was coming to an end and high school was just around the corner, any hope of my current trajectory changing was remote. The compounding of increased class sizes, social stigma that I experienced in the transition to middle school was surely going to be greater next year in high school. Desperate to change this reality and find an alternate school for me, my mom brought me to visit Thomas Edison High School and meet with Pat. Once accepted to Thomas Edison, my feelings about school changed very quickly. I no longer felt ashamed having to walk to special ed classes while my classmates walked the other direction to regular classes. I felt like I was an equal, a student, just like everyone else. In order to learn from your mistakes and failings and grow as a student and a person, you have to feel safe and supported. There needs to be an environment of respect among students and teachers so that students feel encouraged to take a step out of their comfort zone and be challenged without fear or ridicule. Walking into Thomas Edison, this sense of mutual respect is evident right away. You can hear it in the way teachers and staff talk about students as learning different as opposed to learning disabled. You can feel it in the classroom with the patience and attention each student is afforded. And you can see it on the smiling faces of the students in the hallways. Thomas Edison truly gave me the greatest gift of all, confidence. I learned that I might not get things right the first time, that I can get back up and try again until I do. I learned to take responsibility for my actions and myself by being confronted when I made mistakes, and encouraged to embrace my failings, instead of being allowed to fall through the cracks. And I learned how to self-advocate, to be direct about who I am and ask for help when I need it. Because of the lessons I learned at Thomas Edison, I was able to transfer to Jesuit High School my junior year and graduate with honors. In college, I continued to apply these lessons by self-advocating, going directly to each professor on day one and introducing myself, explaining that I learned differently, discuss how we could work together to make sure I was successful. I was able to forego all accommodations through the Office of Disability Services and graduate in 4 years. You've been invited here today and given the opportunity to make a unique investment. As an investment banker, I use various metrics to analyze the potential return of given investments and look at how those investments affect the overall market. Economists have found that nothing matters more to the long-term economic welfare of a nation than its rate of economic growth. And the greatest contributor to economic growth is an educated labor force. It's also been shown that people who do not obtain a high school education have a negative impact on the overall economy. So, in a very real way, you have the opportunity to invest directly into our economy. You have the chance to make the most powerful investment in human capital. In closing, I'd like to thank my mom for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Thank you, Pat, for taking a chance on me when others had given up. And thank you all for supporting Thomas Edison High School so that other students with learning disabilities will have the chance and opportunity to learn from their failures and lead a successful life, enriching our community and our economy. Thank you.